Physiology and anatomy of the heart. When we say physiology, it deals with the function of the heart. And when we say anatomy, it concerned with the structure of the heart.
Good day, sir. Today, we're going to get to know the engine in our body. We're going to discuss about human heart. So what is heart? Heart is the most special muscle we have. It is situated a little to left from the center of the chest between our lungs, and it is an oblique position diagonally. We say that it is very special because it sends blood all over our body.
Blood delivers oxygen and nutrients, winning to live of all our cells. A heart is a type of pump like the one we use to initiate the wheel of our bikes. But the only thing is, instead of pumping air, it's pump blood. Heart has a base, apex, anterior and posterior, and also has four chambers. You'll notice that there are four chambers labeled 1 to 4 on the diagram. And the way we're going to simplify this is we're going to turn the heart into a square. We're going to divide that square into 4 different boxes. And that boxes will represent the chamber of the heart. We can see that they labeled to correlate with the diagram. The heart can be divided into two sides. First, we have the right side shown in blue on the picture, and this includes chamber 1 and 2. And then we have the left side shown in red, in which include chamber 3 and 4. Next, we can divide the boxes or chamber even further the same way. We can divide the 2 on the right from the 2 on the left. We can divide the 2 on the top from the 2 on the bottom. The two chambers on the top, which include boxes 1 and 3, are known as the atria, and the two boxes on the bottom, which include boxes 2 and 4, are known as ventricle. So the atria is located superiorly and the ventricle located inferiorly. The box number 1 located on the right upper portion, it represents the right atrium. And on the same side, on the lower region, it represents the right ventricle. And on the left side upper portion, it represents the left atrium. And on the lower region, same side, it represents the left ventricle.
Right atrium receives venous blood from whole of the body via superior vena cava at its upper end and inferior vena cava at its lower end. It pumps into the right ventricle through the tricuspid valve during the ventricular diastole. Right ventricle, it has a triangular shape or crescent shape, open into pulmonary artery through pulmonary valve. This is the most anterior chamber. It has 3 portions, inflow, outflow, and apical trabecular portion or body of right ventricle.
Left atrium. It is a posterior truss chamber that receives oxygenated blood from the pulmonary veins. The pulmonary veins opens into the left atrium posterior wall. The next one is the left ventricle. It is a bullet-shaped and blood tip formed from the apex of the heart. Left ventricle wall is about 8 to 15 mm in thickness.
There are 3 layers of the heart wall. First is the outer epicardium, middle myocardium, and inner endocardium. Pericardium fixes the heart to the mediastinum. It gives protections against infections and improves lubrications for the heart. Pericardial sac has 2 layers, the serous layer and the fibrous layer. It encloses pericardial cavity, which contains pericardial fluid. Epicardium. It is the outermost layer of the heart. It is a visceral layer of the pericardium. Myocardium, it is the thicker middle of the heart. It composed of individual heart muscle cells called as cardiomyocytes. It joins with intercalated discs, and it composed by collagen and other substance forming extracellular matrix. Let's move on to the main blood vessels. Let's begin with the one indicated by the stars. This blood vessels is carrying blood to the right atrium, and there were going to be veins. And in this case, there are inferior and superior vena cava, which its function is to deliver the oxygenated blood from the body to the right side of the heart. Let's move on to the next structure. So we have the blood vessels that existing on the right ventricle and going to the lungs. This blood vessels is going to be an artery because it's carrying blood away from the heart and carrying blood to the lungs. So it's going to be the pulmonary artery. Specifically, the one indicated by the stars is the pulmonary trunk or pulmonary artery, and its function is to deliver the oxygenated blood from the right side of the heart to the lungs to be oxygenated.
Moving on to the next structure, we have blood vessels that are delivering blood from the lungs to the left atrium. So we know they are going to be veins because they are carrying blood toward the heart. They are coming from the lungs, they are going to be pulmonary veins, and the function of them is to deliver oxygenated blood from the lungs to the left side of the heart, specifically the left atrium.
The final blood vessel is one that is existing the left ventricle and delivering blood to the rest of the body. We know it's an artery because it's carrying blood away from the heart, and in this case, it's the aorta. The function of this aorta is to deliver oxygenated blood to the rest of the body.
Heart also has four main valves. The function of the valves is to prevent the backward flow of blood into the previous chamber. You will first notice a valve located between the right atrium and the right ventricle. This is known as tricuspid valve. When the right ventricle squeezes and bumps blood forward, the tricuspid valve prevents the backflow of blood into the right atrium. We have a similar valve on the left side located between the left atrium and the left ventricle. This is known as the mitral valve, sometimes also referred to as bicuspid valve. Similar story, when the left ventricle squeezes and pumps blood forward, the mitral valve is going to prevent the backflow of blood into the left atrium. Now, because the tricuspid valve and the mitral valve are located between the atrium ventricle, they are also referred to as anterioventricular valves.
Okay, so let's move on to the final two valves. The next two valve is located on the other side of the right ventricle. It's where blood exits the right trunk. The name of this valve is pulmonary valve, also known as pulmonic valve. The function of the pulmonary valve is to prevent the backward flow of blood into the right ventricle. There is a similar valve on the left side located between the left ventricle and the aorta. The name of this valve is aortic valve. Its function is to prevent the backflow of blood from the aorta to the left ventricle during diastole, when the left ventricle is in the low pressure state, filling with blood from the left atrium.
To better understand this topic, we will going to look on the blood flow through the heart. First of all, the oxygenated blood in the body will drain into the venous system and enter the right side of the heart, specifically the right atrium. The blood will then travel the right atrium through the tricuspid valve and enter the right ventricle. The blood will then exit the right ventricle through the pulmonary valve and enter the lungs to be oxygenated. The main goal of the right side of the heart is to deliver the oxygenated blood to the lungs so it can become oxygenated. The Blood that travels from the left atrium through the mitral valve and enter the left ventricle. The blood that will exit the left ventricle through the aortic valve to be delivered to the rest of the body. The main goal of the left side of the heart is to deliver the oxygenated blood to the rest of the body. At dyan na po nagtatapos ang aming video presentation kasama ng aking mga kagrupo na si Myla at saka si Erica Esmabe. Thank you po, sir.